Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Introduction and Orientation to Procedureflow webinar. My name is Amy Weber, and I'm the Best Practices Manager for the Procedureflow team. I want to thank everyone for giving up time out of your busy day to be with us. We are recording this session, so we're going to keep everyone muted for the duration. If you do have any questions, though, feel free to type them into the question box on your screen, and we are going to have a short Q&A portion at the end of the webinar, so we'll make sure that we address it at that time. So today's agenda looks like this. We're going to give you a brief overview of the Procedureflow story and where we came from. Then we wanted to give you just some navigation tips and tricks that will allow you to move around the software and navigate through the flows more easily. Then we want you to have all the help resources available to you. And then finally, we're going to go over to Procedureflow, and we're going to map out how to make a pizza flow. And I'll do it in a way that you can see all of the great features that Procedureflow has to offer. We all know and have experienced the inherent challenges that come along with process documentation. Processes are not easy to learn, interpret, or follow, and even with weeks of training, it will be months before the employees are fully proficient. It's hard to keep the documentation current and up to date. It's not easy to find the information needed to help customers. And even if it can be found, it's almost impossible for employees to know if they have the most current version of the process. You really run the risk of every employee telling a different story. The Procedureflow story is a combination of all of these things. It was developed by our parent company, Innovatia, in the early 2000s. At the time, Innovatia operated a global call center. The training for the support agents was intense, with over 6 weeks of classroom instruction, and then they were sent out onto the floor with a 900-page binder as their only lifeline. As you can imagine, new employees completely felt like a deer caught in the headlights. Employee morale and satisfaction were low, attrition was high, and Innovatia was not meeting any of its SLA targets. Then someone came up with the idea of taking that 900-page binder and turning it into an interactive visual map that walked the agents through all of the processes step by step, and Procedureflow was born. The initial version of Procedureflow was a very clunky, unfriendly desktop application, but even with this, they had great results. The agents loved it because they had all of the information they needed right at their fingertips. They knew they just had to follow the flows without worrying about what was coming up next, what information they were going to need, and where they were going to find it. This gave them confidence right from day one. The 900-page binders were thrown out, and Innovatia never missed another SLA target. It was at that point that Innovatia decided to commercialize Procedureflow, and the result is the user-friendly, simple-to-use, and robust software that we all use today. So what is Procedureflow exactly? Procedureflow replaces complicated Word documents and Visio diagrams and turns those complex processes and procedures into a series of small hyperlinked flowcharts where processes and procedures can quickly and easily be mapped into simple, easy-to-follow step-by-step instructions. Documenting your processes in Procedureflow means that they are easy to follow. It gives employees just the information they need exactly when they need it, and they always know that they're using the most up-to-date and current version of the process, and they can access it from anywhere in the world. Employees no longer have to search for documentation, try to keep track of process changes and updates via email, or worry that they won't find the right information. All they have to do is trust the flows, and they can be 100% sure that they have the most up-to-date and accurate version of the process. So that is the Procedureflow story. Before we move to Procedureflow and start to go through the flows, we wanted to give you some tips and tricks that will help you navigate through the flows more easily. Please don't worry about taking lots of notes here. All of this is included in the Viewers and Contributors FAQ document that can be found at help.procedureflow.com under the Training and Launch Documentation category. To log into Procedureflow, simply open your browser. It does work best in Chrome or Firefox, and go to app.procedureflow.com, enter your email and password. We recommend adding it to your bookmarks or favorites list and saving your credentials so you don't have to enter them every time. If you've forgotten your password, there is a Forgot Password link on the homepage that you can use to reset it. Each shape in Procedureflow has a unique purpose, and it's important to know what each shape means to have a full understanding of the flows. The action shape represents a direct action that must be taken, clicking a link, asking a question, or advising the customer. The action shape is also used to set up the home page. The decision diamond represents a choice or a fork in the road. Depending on the answer, you'll follow a different path and a different set of steps. The data parallelogram represents information which you should take note of and remember because you'll need it later on. So write it down or make a mental note. The backstory shape provides additional information and context that helps the user understand why they are doing something. It can also be used within the flow itself to provide an example, note, or tip that will help the user execute the process more easily. The endpoint represents the end of the process. You completed the process or satisfied the customer's inquiry. Usually, we link this to a close the call subflow with instructions on any final steps that need to be completed, such as making notes on a customer's account or on the support ticket. The critical shape represents information that, if missed, could have a massive impact on the customer or on the business. This should be built directly into the flows at the appropriate point, so there is absolutely no chance a user could miss it. Procedureflow gives you the ability to build a customized list of starred flows down the left-hand side of your screen. This is the equivalent of your favorites or your bookmarks list in your browser. By clicking the star to the left of a flow's title, you can add the flow to your starred list. Then all you need to do is click on it and you can jump directly to that subflow without having to work down from the top of the stack every time. You can also search for a flow. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, there is a Search Flows field where you can do a keyword search on the title of any flow. Just select the flow from the list of search results and you can jump directly to it, again, without having to work down from the top of the stack. There's also a quick way to get back to the home page or home flow. Just click the name of the entry point in the entry point selector box under the Procedureflow logo in the top left of the screen, or just click View Flows. Both will take you directly back to the home page and you can get ready to take your next call. As you navigate through the flows, you'll often see a blue action box with the phrase "Go back and continue" in it. This just means that the process will continue back on the previous flow. So you'll need to click your browser's back button to go back, and once you're there, the yellow back glow will show you where you need to continue on from in order to finish the process. And finally, where to go for help. Again, we don't want you to leave today's session feeling unsupported or like we've thrown you into the deep end with no lifeline. If you have questions about how to use Procedureflow, you can reach out directly to the team at our 1-800 number or by emailing us at help@procedureflow.com. For self-serve options, you can search the Procedureflow knowledge base of help articles, training docs, and videos at help.procedureflow.com or watch the on-demand training webinars at procedureflow.com/webinars. I'm going to stop there for a minute and just see if there's any questions at this point in time. No questions. So now that we finished the intro and orientation, we're going to move over to Procedureflow and we're going to build that how to make a pizza flow, and I'll show you all of the awesome features that Procedureflow can do. So now we are looking at Procedureflow and we are looking at the live version. So the first thing that I need to do is toggle from live over to your draft. When I take my draft, what I'm doing is essentially taking my own personal photocopy of everything that exists under this Getting Started entry point. And I can do anything that I want to my draft, and it won't affect the live version that the rest of the team is using. So to start building our how to make a pizza flow, I'm just going to go into this subflow, and then once we're there, I'm going to click the edit button over in the top right hand corner of the screen. That will take us into the editing canvas, which I can tell I'm in because of the grid background and because I see our 7 shapes down the left-hand side of the screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag on my action box, and we are going to check our pizza dough recipe to see if we have all of the ingredients. So the great thing about Procedureflow is I can actually hyperlink this action box directly to my favorite pizza dough recipe. So let's just open a new tab, and we'll go over to allrecipes.com. And we'll find my favorite pizza dough recipe, and we're going to copy the URL and then go back over to Procedureflow. We're going to select the text that we want to put the hyperlink under, then click the chain icon, and then what we're going to do is we are just going to paste that URL into the box. Then once we click Insert, what you'll see down in the preview window is now my pizza dough recipe text is hyperlinked, and I can tell that it's going external to Procedureflow because of the little square icon with the arrow pointing out. So this is also how you would add SharePoint documents into Procedureflow. So if you had Word documents or training documents or templates that you wanted to link, and if they were on SharePoint, this is how you could do that. So it's great because, again, employees don't have to search for anything. We can link them directly to it. So the next thing that I want to do is put in a decision diamond, and we are just going to ask, do we have all the ingredients? Then once we have our decision diamond, we need to try to figure out which goes down and which path goes to the right. So what we want to think about here is the 80-20 rule. The situation that occurs 80% of the time is the one that you want to build going straight down because people scroll on their mouse straight up and down. The 20% exceptions are what we want to build out going to the right. So going out to the right, we're going to put drive to store, and then we're going to put another action box on. And for this one, we're just going to put a list of the ingredients that we want to buy at the store. And we can build a bulleted list of ingredients here. So we're going to put in our text, and we're going to hit our left align button. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then to put my bullets in, all I'm going to put is hyphen space. So we've got flour, we've got pizza sauce, we've got veggies, and now to do sub-bullets, it's a reverse. It's space hyphen. So we'll put our veggies in here. And then finally, we will put one more main bullet. So we'll put our meat in here, and let's do pepperoni and bacon. So then once I have all of my ingredients, we're going to click add. And I'm going to need to resize this shape, again, just by grabbing those white squares on the corner. And I'm just going to pull it out until all of my text is inside of the shape. And then my last action box on our no path here is just drive back home. So there's my no path. And again, that's our 20% exception. So now we're going to build our 80% situation, our yes path, going down to the bottom of the page. So the first action box on this path is preheat oven to 350 degrees. And again, we're going to pull out our shape so we have just one line of text. That makes it much easier for everyone to read quickly. Then our next one here is make pizza dough. So I know right off the bat that there's going to be a ton of steps underneath this make a pizza dough. So I'm going to make this a subflow right off the bat. I'm going to click link, then click a new flow and click add. And once that adds onto the canvas, you can see it's underlined with a black line, and that's how I know that that's a subflow. So that's the first part of making a subflow directly from scratch. The second way is to push shapes that are already on the canvas and just push them down to the next level. What I want to do is just select my text I want to push down, hover and right click, and select move into new flow. Then I'm just going to put whatever title I want to name my subflow and click move. So when I click move, those shapes are going to be pushed down to the next level, and I'm going to get a brand new action box that again has the title that I just named it. So let's just save and close and go back out of the main spine. And we're going to go into that by ingredient subflow that we just created. And you'll see that our shapes that were previously on the main spine are now down into the next level. So they will go down into the next level in exactly the same location that they were on the first subflow. So you will have to come in and rejig the shapes and just put them vertically. And then once we're done that, we want to add in this all-important go back and continue shape. So we don't have a back button. And this go back and continue convention is what will let the user know what they need to do after they've finished completing this sub process. So now we're ready to add in our arrows. So I'm going to go up to my connector arrow, and you'll always be toggling back and forth between your pointer and your connector. So to put my arrows in, I'm just going to drag my crosshairs from circle to circle, making sure that the circles highlight green. Then once they've done that, I know that they are locked in, and I can move my shapes all the way around, and the arrows will stay locked in. So you only need about 2 to 3 grid lines between your shapes. Some people like to add a whole lot more space, but it really is a waste of space. You don't need to do that. 2 or 3 grid lines is plenty. And I can just click Control A to select the whole thing, and I can move all of my spine all at once and position it where I want to. So get into the habit of pressing save frequently when you're working in Procedureflow. Procedureflow doesn't automatically save your work like Microsoft Word does, so you always want to make sure that you're hitting that save button on a regular basis. And if you don't remember the last time that you did hit save, just look at the timestamp off to the right of the buttons there, and that'll let you know the last time that you saved. So we're all done with this one, so we're going to save and close, and then we're going to back out. There's my yellow backload that again lets me know exactly where I need to continue on from. And we're just going to go back into edit mode and we'll finish off our main spine. So my next shape here, now that I've made my pizza dough, is just to add my toppings. So we're going to add pizza sauce and we're going to add our toppings. And again, I'm going to pull my text out on one line so it's nice and easy to read. And then my next one here is to put pizza in oven and bake for 18 minutes. And again, I'm going to resize my shape. And then the next thing that I want to do here is I want to add in a tip. So this is likely a tidbit of information that was added by a senior agent, someone who has been doing this job a very, very long time. And we're just going to put in tip, and we're going to bold that just by selecting the text and hitting the B. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to say cooking times may vary by oven. And again, it's nothing the user has to do. It's just a little tidbit or a piece of information that will help the user execute the process more easily. And we are going to connect that tip in with a dashed arrow into the action box that it refers to. So we would do this with any tip or example boxes, and we would also do this with screenshots as well. And it's really important because it lets the user be crystal clear on which tip or which screenshot refers to which action box. So the next one that we're going to add in is a critical box. And again, this is something that is very, very important. We don't want the user to miss it. And this is going to say, let pizza cool for 10 minutes before eating. And again, we want to put this in a red box because we don't want the user to miss it and accidentally end up with pizza burns on the roof of their mouth. We all know how awful that is. So then after that, we get to the fun part. So our next action box is eat a slice of pizza. So then once we have that there, I'm going to show you how to add an image. So to add an image, they do have to be shared on your hard drive. So we encourage all of our users to just create a folder on your desktop that's called mapping images. And then whenever you do a screen capture using Snagit or Snippet or Jing, which is what we like to use, Jing, whenever you take a screen capture, just save it into that mapping images folder, and then it's really easy for you to find. So to add an image in, all you want to do is click your Add Image button at the top and browse your computer, and you want to go to that mapping images folder on your desktop, and then just select which image or screenshot you want to add, click Open, and then just add it onto the canvas. Images can be resized exactly the way shapes are, just by grabbing onto the white squares, but hold the Shift button down as you're resizing them. And what that will do is it will maintain all the aspect ratios of your images so that they don't skew out wide or skew out narrow as you resize them. And again, because this is an all-important screenshot, we need to connect that in to the action box that it goes along with the dashed arrow. So now we're going to add in a decision diamond, and we're just going to say, are you full? So many processes that you go through will always have a loop. So we're going to put an are you full decision diamond in with our done shape at the end. So if it's a yes, then they'll come down into the done shape. If the answer to that question is no, they're just going to live in that eat a slice of pizza loop until they're full. They answer yes to that question, and then they're kicked out the bottom. We're just going to add one more, and this is the important backstory shape that I was talking about earlier. So we like all of our subflows to have a backstory shape, and again, this just provides general context and information to the user, why this process is important, what the rationale is for having to execute it, what the expected outcomes are. So we're going to give it a title, and we're going to left align it, and we're just going to go over to Wikipedia. and I've got the history of pizza page bookmarked here. We're just going to copy the first couple of paragraphs off of this page, and then we're going to return back to Procedureflow, and we're just going to paste it in. Those backstory shapes just kind of live in the top right-hand corner of the subflow, and again, it just provides that background information and background context that the user needs in order to understand the process. So now we've got all our shapes on, and we're going to save and close again so we don't lose any of our work. And then we're going to add in our arrows. So we're going to grab our connector arrow, and again, we're just going to drag those crosshairs from circle to circle. Don't be too fussed about trying to get your shapes exactly lined up before you do this, because there'll always be some little tweaking back and forth once you have your arrows in. So don't be too fussed about getting your shapes lined up perfectly. And then we'll go back to pointer so I can move my shapes around. And again, I'm just going to realign my shapes so I only have 2 to 3 grid lines between each one. Again, that is plenty of space between your shapes. So now that I've got all my shapes aligned, now I'm going to label my arrows. So to label my arrows, it's very easy. All you need to do is double click on your arrow, and that will open your edit connector box. And that is where you add in your label. So we did our no, now we're going to do our yes. So that is the first of our decision diamonds labeled. And we need to add just one more arrow in here. So when you come back out from that by ingredient subflow, we want them to go into that preheat oven action box. That's our next step. So we're just going to drag a straight line from where it needs to start, from where it needs to end. And then we're going to grab the little green dot in the middle of that arrow and just drag it. And that's going to give us our 90-degree angle. Then once that's locked in, I can move my shape all around and that elbow will stay stiff. It won't move. So now let's go down to the bottom and we'll do the same thing on our Are You Full decision diamond. So again, we're going to drag our arrow from where it needs to start, from where it needs to end. And on this guy, what we're going to do is just put in 2 90-degree angles instead of 1. And again, we're going to double click and we'll put our no label on. And we'll do the same on our yes arrow. So now we've got all our arrows in, we've got everything labeled. So let's save and close this. And now that is what our finished flow looks like. So now I'm ready to submit this up into the queue. So I'm going to click Review Your Changes. And when I get here, I'm going to see this really nice side-by-side version that shows me exactly what we've done. So over on the side, you can see that we've modified that Make a Pizza Dough, the original subflow, and we've added 2 more. We've added a By Ingredients, and we've added a Make a Pizza Dough subflow. Again, I can click on each of those ones individually and see exactly what's included on each different change. So now I'm just going to give this guy a title. Then we'll just put How to Make a Pizza. And then we're just going to hit Submit for approval. So that has put this change set up into the approvals queue. And if I'm a contributor, that's as far as I go. I'm just going to go back to work. But because I am an admin on this particular environment, and I can tell I am because I have an Approvals tab and an Administration tab at the top of my screen, I now see a bubble beside my Approvals tab indicating that I have one change set that's in the queue waiting for my review. So I'm going to click on Approvals, and then I'm going to click on the title, and then myself as the approver sees that exact side-by-side version of what exactly the user is suggesting that we change. So from here, we can have a discussion back and forth. I can attach a comment and send it back to the user. I can decline it or request changes, which again will make me attach a comment so that the user knows when they get it back why I haven't approved it. Or we'll just go ahead and approve, which is what I want to do now. So as soon as I hit approve, what you'll see is that the old live and the new live switch places. And the new live version now contains all of the work that we just did. So now I'm going to go back to our live version, and I want to show you what everybody else sees. Anytime there's a change to the process, everyone's change history will have this now, the green bubble that says 1 new, 2 new. So they go into their change history and they click the first one, the new one that's on the top of the queue. And again, me as a user will see the side-by-side version. So I can quickly go through each one and see exactly what has changed in the process. So Procedureflow is a really, really easy way to document your procedures. It's very easy to keep them updated, and it's really easy for the end user to be able to see exactly what has changed every time the process updates. And that is Procedureflow in a nutshell. So I'll stop there and see, is there any other questions? All right, so just a reminder that this webinar is part of our training series, and all webinar recordings are available to watch at your convenience on procedureflow.com/webinars. And if you'd like to test your Procedureflow knowledge, we also have quizzes to go along with the webinars on help.procedureflow.com under the training documentation category. And that's it for today. So thank you everyone for attending. Happy flowing and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.